Hey there, mathematicians! Bea here. I just got an internship at City Hall, and I get to be on the team that will help design a new town square. Our first meeting is coming up, and each team member has to bring a drawn-out design to present at the meeting. I obviously can't make the drawing as big as the town square itself, so I'll have to scale it down. But how can I make sure that my drawing will be accurate and not look weird once it's scaled up to full size? Let's figure it out. Okay, so in my blueprint drawing, I decided to include a stage for performances. The stage in my plan measures 9 inches by 12 inches. In real life, the stage will measure 144 inches by 192 inches. If the drawing is our pre-image and the real-world stage is our image, what scale factor is used to go from the drawn stage to the real stage? Wait, what is scale factor again? I haven't thought about it in a while. Scale factor is the number used to multiply the measurements of the pre-image to make the image. So, we're trying to figure out what number we need to multiply by to get the scaled up real-world measurements from the smaller drawing measurements. To calculate scale factor, we need a pair of corresponding sides, or sides that are in the same position in each figure. For the stage, what are the two pairs of corresponding sides that we could use for this fraction? Yeah, 9 and 144, or 12 and 192. Let's use 9 and 144. Pause here and try calculating the scale factor on your own. Okay, to do this calculation, let's think about the relationship between the pre-image, the scale factor, and the image. We just reviewed that scale factor is the number used to multiply the measurements of the pre-image to make the image. So it's kind of like an equation where the pre-image times the scale factor equals the image. If we wanted to solve that equation to isolate the scale factor, how could we do that? Using what we know about inverse operations, we'd undo the multiplication between the pre-image and the scale factor using division. Dividing by the pre-image on both sides gives us scale factor equals image divided by pre-image. Essentially, scale factor is just a ratio in fraction form that compares corresponding sides. So, then, putting the measurement from the image in the numerator and the measurement from the pre-image in the denominator would give us the fraction 144 over 9. When we simplify the fraction, we get 16 over 1, which is 16. We could also have just divided 144 by 9. That's the scale factor. That means that to get from the measurements in my blueprint to the measurements of the actual real-life objects in the town square, we'll multiply by 16. Scale factor needs to be consistent between all of the corresponding sides. Is 12 times 16 192? It is. So, we're all set here. Let's look at some more examples. In my town square design, I'm also including a grassy lawn for people to have picnics and watch performances. Now that we know the scale factor is 16, let's use it to fill in some missing measurements. We know that we need to multiply the pre-image, which is the blueprint drawing, by the scale factor to get the measurement of the image, or the real-world lawn. 10 times 16 is 160, so it looks like we're off to a good start here. Use what you know about scale factor to find the other missing measurements. How did you calculate the two missing measurements? Well, first, to find the missing value in the image, we'll multiply the corresponding measurement in the pre-image by the scale factor, which is 16. What is 6 times 16? That's 96. So the actual lawn will measure 96 inches on one side, 128 inches on another, and 160 inches on the third side. What's different about the other missing measurement? Yeah, it's from the pre-image instead of the image. So, will we multiply the corresponding side by 16? Nope. 128 is from the image, not the pre-image. So we'll actually need to work backward here and divide 16 to find the missing measurement in the pre-image. It's like solving that equation from before, but this time we're solving for the pre-image instead of the scale factor. What's 128 divided by 16? That would be 8. So the missing measurement in my blueprint is 8 inches. Another member of the planning team showed me their design, and they want to include some flower beds and benches. The real-world measurements of the benches are going to be 48 inches by 18 inches, and the designer scaled that down to be 2.25 inches by 6 inches in their drawing. This time, using the real-world measurements as the pre-image and the diagram as the image, what scale factor did the designer use to create their blueprint? Pause while you figure it out. When the figures are facing different directions, like they are here, it's extra important to think carefully about matching up the corresponding sides. Which side goes with 48 inches? Yeah, 6 inches, because each of those measurements is found on the long side of the rectangle. And 18 inches goes with 2.25 inches because they're both the shorter sides. Whether you used 6 over 48 or 2.25 over 18, after simplifying the fraction, you should have gotten a scale factor of 1/8. The same designer also wants to include flower beds in the town square. Here's their design. Remember, in this case, the real-world design is the pre-image and the blueprint is the image. As another way of labeling the figures, we can use prime notation and label them F and F prime, like this, to help us keep track without having to write out pre-image and image. We also want to make sure we're properly matching up the corresponding sides. Which side goes with the 16? Yeah, that would be this one, because this is the shorter, flat side. And which side goes with the 36? Yep, this one, the longer flat side. Using the scale factor we just calculated of 1/8, find the missing measurements in both figures. Pause while you work. All right, let's go over this. We needed to multiply each value in the pre-image by 1/8 to find the missing value in the image. Here are all of the blueprint measurements after applying the scale factor to the pre-image. To calculate the missing measurements in the pre-image, remember, we need to work backward and divide by the scale factor. How do I divide by 1/8? I can multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1/8 flipped around to make 8 over 1, or just 8. Give it a try if you haven't already. There we go. Each of the missing sides in the pre-image will measure 26 inches. Thanks for reviewing scale factor with me today. Make sure you've finished up your guided notes, and then you can move on to today's online practice. And remember, math is everywhere. Keep exploring.
Hey, hey.